All right, got the word we should get going. So welcome to all. Thank you for joining us for this session. I'm Luke Tucker. I'm the Senior Director of Community at HackerOne. And we're going to be talking to you today about the question on the screen, which is, are hackers the solution to the cybersecurity skills shortage? Great topic, great challenge. So we can go ahead and go on to the next slide and we'll get rolling. So I think it's no secret that we're facing a worldwide talent shortage. This is pretty well known. We'll go over some even stats that we see in our own research at HackerOne, and it's not getting any better. Go ahead, next slide. And with COVID-19 really kind of shifting forward the digital transformations that organizations are seeing, the world's changed. It's kind of moved ahead in our adoption curve of working from home. We're all probably in our own offices or in our living rooms, and this has been our life to be able to get work done in a remote first, digitally centric environment that causes its own challenges in addition to all the other business challenges we've had. Go ahead, next slide. So even when we survey populations in our within CISOs that work with HackerOne, over a third of them are saying, yeah, hey, look, we're seeing this as well. We're seeing that COVID-19 has pushed it forward as an additional evidence point. Go ahead, next slide. So with all this, right, no secret, more systems, more devices, more users that are online, that means more threats to you and your organization. All the same things before, just at a heightened level. Next slide. So here's some of the stats I was referencing. Over 500,000 in unfilled cybersecurity roles. We're seeing 1,000 data breaches just in the past half decade plus. And people are saying, we don't have the proper training. And the other side, 86% are saying, we haven't invested enough to produce the right training for our people. And the slide there at the bottom, or the stat at the bottom of the slide, actually comes from one of our top hackers who I'm going to tell you a little bit about in a few minutes. His name's Jack Cable. And in his own research to decide what university he wanted to attend, he found that out of 25 or 24 computer science programs in the United States, higher education, only one of them actually had any kind of requirements to get a degree that included cybersecurity training or cybersecurity educational courses. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So my quick little switch here is hackers are the solution. I'm going to tell you why. Tell you how maybe even you yourself listening are a hacker. And so we can go ahead to the next slide. What we're going to talk about is, first, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but then I'm going to define the term hacker. What does that mean? I work for a company called HackerOne. So we're not called Security Researcher One. We're not called, something else. We're called HackerOne. We embrace that term, and we'll talk about what that means to us and what that means for our conversation today. I'm going to look at some information about these hackers, what we see from our own survey of our user group. Who are they? Where do they come from? What are the skills that they have? What are they looking to learn? And how do they want to learn? And then I'm going to go through some story arcs, like 5 different examples of typical career paths and story arcs from our community of hackers that are looking to further their career. Because we even ask them, we say, why do you join HackerOne? And 80+% of them are on our platform to further their career in some way. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about how you can, in your organizations, identify and recruit top talent externally. It's a big challenge. 500,000 unfilled jobs. You probably have open recs right now. And we'll also talk about how you develop your current talent. How do you create a culture that will allow top talent to flourish and be able to invite them into a wonderful ecosystem in your organizations. And lastly, I'll kind of include some predictions, because who doesn't love some predictions, whether they're right or not, from where we sit today, coming up on the beginning of a new year. We'll talk about that. All right, next slide. Cool. So this is me actually in a pool in Vegas during DEF CON, believe it or not. And we had some fun during live hacking events that we do at HackerOne. And I like to call myself a chief hacker talent agent. I get to oversee all the hacker community work that we do at HackerOne. So that includes the recruitment, the development of hackers, education material called Hacker 101, and many other work. And I get to work with hackers each and every day. A little bit about myself. I work with Northern Michigan University Cybersecurity group. They're doing some really great work in the cyber range, and work with them to help across the org. They're doing some amazing things in educating kind of the 1 in 24 stat I showed earlier. They're they're the side doing things right. So I'm happy to work with them. And personally, I lived in Hawaii for 13 years, and now I'm coming at you from Boise, Idaho. Next slide. Cool. So let's define the term hacker. You go ahead and do the next slide. When you go to Google and you want to ask if you've ever seen, digital show of hands, the wired autocomplete videos they do with celebrities where they put up a placard card and they have them peel off, Tom Hanks is whatever, Tom Hanks's hair, whatever. Well, similarly here, what about hackers? what does Google say they are? And then next slide, please. What does the internet say that everyone thinks they look like? I think and we all know this is not accurate. We can go to the next slide. The people on this next slide are true hackers from our community, and we got Jesse, Ron, Andre, and Tanner. And any hacker is, our definition, is one who enjoys the intellectual challenge of creatively overcoming limitations. Other words we use to define it, I mentioned security researchers, possibly finders in a general term, because we also on HackerOne's platform, we have vulnerability disclosure policies or programs that don't pay a bounty. And then we also have bug bounty hunters or researchers that we work with. So that's our definition of hacker. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the stats we have from our community about who these people are. Go ahead and next slide. All right, next slide. So demographics, motivations, good. We did a really neat campaign recently I was really proud of. Here we have Fisher, Nafi, Space Raccoon is his hacker name, his name's Eugene, Jesse again, and Alex Chapman. These are all hackers from our platform, and we were able to do a campaign around hacking for good. When you see the term hacker used in the media and general conversation, it's usually in a criminalized view. HackerOne's on a mission to redefine that term for society, and we embrace it. And we want to present these hackers that do hack for good day in and day out within the HackerOne community and across cybersecurity. Go ahead, next slide. So very simple demographically, how old are these people? Well, typically we've got 18 to 24, and some of them go up to all the way up to 50 plus, now a very small minority, but most of the hackers in our platform are going to be in the ages between 18 and 35, and they typically moonlight on our platform, or some of them do it full time because the economic opportunities are great. Go ahead and next slide. So on the left, we have what describes your education specifically related to cybersecurity computer programming. And on the right, we had what is the primary way you learn to hack? So most of our population, they studied something at an undergraduate level. They've dedicated their time in certifications and resources, but they really learn a lot in blogs and web and YouTube and other things other than higher education and curriculum, or CTF clubs are a part of their experience. You can go ahead and next slide. This is a tweet I included from one of our hackers. Her name's Katie. She's asked her Twitter audience. She's got a significant number of Twitter followers. How do you all like to learn? And between, you see the top one and the bottom one, 80+% are looking at videos and talks, CTFs, and then a lot of part looking at books or courses and degree. Go ahead, next slide. So what best describes you? When we look at who's in our community, what do they self-identify as when we're looking at, am I a student? Do I do this as a hobby? Do I do it full time? And this is the results. This is what we see from a survey of over 3,000 hackers within our community. And I mentioned that stat earlier, 80% are on our platform because they want to get a job or further their career in some way. So when we ask the original question, can hackers be a solution to the cybersecurity skills shortage? Immediately, there's opportunity in a gig economy environment through a HackerOne platform, but also I'm going to talk about some exciting ways we've seen hackers develop in their work and actually get hired full time, something we don't shy away from. I actually celebrate as that opportunity for hackers in our community. Next slide. So this is just a stat. These are some interesting information that looks at how much time are they spending. It's a big question we get often. And it varies wildly depending on time, depending on seasonality. Some hackers say they come in, they'll spend 3 months hacking and then disappear. They have that opportunity to do that. But we're looking at usually, 30 to 40% are spending about 10 hours a week hacking on HackerOne's platform. We got close to 2,000 programs. that are organizations. Maybe some of you have participated or run your own bug bounty program. And so this is some of the information from the HackerOne platform. Next slide. All right, so this is what part of the talk I've really been looking forward to. One of the things I get the most excited about is providing some stories to people like yourselves and anybody that's listening about who our hackers are and what are some of their journeys. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, these two hackers, I'm going to pull up my quick notes here. So these hackers, let's call them HackerOne. So this is our hackers that have been friends since they were in high school. They tinkered with computers, had parents that recognized their early talent, but they got into trouble hacking a bit when they were young. They might have done some freelance pen testing or cybersecurity work, definitely recognized talent. In this case, these two hackers, and you can click next slide, they actually co-founded the bug bounty platform called HackerOne. On the left, you have Mikhail Prinz and Yober Abma. And one of the anecdotal stories, and I see this often in hackers in our community, getting access to computers very, very young, parents that kind of helped shepherd them through, but they actually got in trouble at school for running some pranks at graduation. They even took over the local TV station. Things that, yeah, you know, like if you had a way to rightfully tell them that there was a vulnerability, you should do so. But as they're younger, we see examples of hackers just in their early age finding opportunities. In this case, obviously founding a company, which isn't everyone's story. But let's go to our next hacker walkthrough. All right. I mentioned one of these hackers earlier in our talk. On the left, you have hacker Jack Cable, and on the right, you have David Dworkin. So these hackers are high school age. They started very young. In fact, in Jack's story, he was kind of put his name on the HackerOne map, put his name broadly, because he did a lot of work successfully running a lot of bounties in the summer for Hack the Air Force campaign, a program that HackerOne helped run with the US Defense Digital Services Group. And so both him and David actually got to hack the Pentagon when it first rolled out a little over 4.5 years ago, or just about 4.5 years ago. And so when they're very young, being able to have access to these opportunities 10, 15 years ago wouldn't have been possible. But you see them in their high school age going after, now they're both freshmen or recently graduated in college and have either paid for a good chunk of their university education or furthered their career, whether it's an internship. David interned at Salesforce, Jack interned with the Defense Digital Services Group. Now David works at Google, and Jack is a sophomore or going on a junior at Stanford University. Go ahead, next slide. So this is Anna, and this is our Hacker 3 story arc. She actually knew in high school that she wanted to go pursue cybersecurity. Many of the earlier examples kind of just fell into it or were into computers and ended up figuring out they could break stuff. Anna kind of knew she actually sought out from the CTF work that she did and some of the capture the flag clubs in high school. She pursued a university called UMBC in Maryland, and they have one of the best CTF clubs. If anybody's on the call, they might recognize the name. They compete nationally, perform very well. And she was the president of the club that we had the fortunate opportunity to work with in a recent sponsorship and collaboration on a capture the flag event. And so in Anna's case, she now has recently graduated and she got cherry picked right out of school to go work for, let me check the name of the group, 26 Labs. She's doing vulnerability research and exploit development. So it's an amazing story for her that she specifically knew, I'm going to go to a university that triumphs and supports CTF work. And that was a big part of her learning track from her own testament. Going to go to hacker number 4, next slide. All right, these two gentlemen, we've got Pete Jaworski on the left and you have Johnny Nipper on the right. So these hackers are full-time pen testers. They were doing AppSec work and each of them had a different life curve. One of them was living in Northern California and wanted to move south. So they targeted programs, bug bounty programs in HackerOne that they knew they had headquarters in Southern California, developed a reputation within that program and then applied for an open AppSec role when it came available. That's Johnny's story. Pete was participating in a live hacking event with HackerOne and got to see a recruiter that was at a company called Shopify. And he was at a different company at the time, wanted to move into tech. So when you look at, these are full-time AppSec or pen tester professionals that have a profile through the HackerOne platform. And this is one example of the story arcs and career arcs that we commonly see when they develop a relation, they develop their work on the platform. they're able to get recognized by some organizations that are interested, and all the things match in terms of the opportunities to extend their job offer and give them that full-time gig. Next slide. All right, this is the hacker known as Mayonnaise, or Mayonnaise, as he would say. He is John Colston, and his trajectory is very different. So part of the beauty of a crowdsourced model is you're looking at people from all different backgrounds. Not everybody's the same. That's the aspect of there's no such thing as perfectly secure software. You need the creative intellectual humans to think problems differently than the people that built it outside of your own comfort zone. And John comes from a background working 10+ years in professional services in a very specific niche in financial services, and was really kind of like a data science professional, took his skills and applied it into recon, applied it into bug bounty, and he's one of our $1 million hackers, earning that in just over 2 years of work on the HackerOne platform. And so just amazing with his testament to go away from the full-time gig and then actually pursue bug bounty full-time. That was his career arc. You can go ahead, next slide. This is Ron Chan. He is a hacker known as Engelhog on our platform. He was a freelance full-time bug bounty hunter, and then he developed a relationship with one of the top programs on the HackerOne platform, got offered an AppSec job. He's now part of their team. And we see that pretty often. That's a different kind of track from the Yorsks or the Johnny Nippers, who we mentioned in the hacker arcs a few slides ago. He came doing full-time pen testing, moonlighting the bug bounty, and now he's actually doing it full-time again. So really neat to know. We'll go ahead and go next slide for our last hacker story arc. This is hypothermia. He is coming from Deloitte, and recently he goes backwards. So instead of just going from, I want to go work as a full-time at a company, I'm going to go back and try my hand out freelance and part-time. What we typically see with hackers like this is they'll go back and forth, and then at some point in time, they're going to now, in their career arc, which I'm excited to see, you'll see some of our predictions at the end of the talk. Where's hypothermia going to be? Where's this? His name's Carlos. Where's Carlos going to be in many years? So those are some examples that I share of relevancy from the HackerOne platform. Now, most of the stories we hear and see is kind of within the wheelhouse of HackerOne in terms of application security. We look at primarily AppSec experts. Bug bounty is that mostly layer, but we're seeing a lot more companies and corporations looking to work with HackerOne on an embedded level, on very, very detailed work. And we're just excited to see how this is going to grow as our community over time. Next slide. Cool. So our next section is how can you identify and attract top hacker talent? Next slide. Okay, so some tips on how to identify and attract hackers to work for you and your organization. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick, and these slides, happy to provide as reference, or the conference organizers will be able to do that. But I want you to be active as a brand in the hacker community. This definitely goes a long way. From the hackers I talk to, from we work with, they want to essentially know that they would have a home, that they would be comfortable there. And it helps them just kind of provide access. I mentioned some of the ways in which hackers get to know the security teams that are looking to hire them, or the ProdSec leaders, or AppSec professionals that they want to work with. They want to ask them, hey, do you enjoy your job? Do you enjoy the people you work with? And it's always helpful in the different, with this is partnering, if you're coming from a security leadership org, then maybe partnering with marketing, partnering with different groups that would provide, where's the talent going? Where are they hanging out? What are the conferences they're going to? A lot of times your HR group with recruiting functions, I've seen that be pretty successful at many AppSec conferences I've attended. They send some of their best technical recruiters and say, hey, we want to be able to get to know you. We recognize that this is pre-COVID in some of my examples, but over time, as we as society are able to now embrace and get back to that in-person component, it's just a different flavor now in a pandemic environment, digital first, but being active, having a kind of a cohesive brand that is not a standoffish. So the second bullet, empower and encourage your security staff to be involved with the hacker community. So I mentioned, like, either at those conferences or in different places, they need to have that comfort. That would go a long way. So in the interview process, a lot of people put their best foot forward in any kind of interview. Of course, we're hardwired to do that. We want the opportunity. When you have that capability to empower your team, that can come in a couple different flavors to say, go hang out at this conference, we'll cover X% portion of your registration fee, or be involved in your local B-sides group or planning groups. Kind of organically happens. That's where community really kind of thrives. And so you'll be able to have employees that you work with just communicating organically. Then it's Reddit, the Hacker News, the different forums and places where people are having conversation, Bug Bounty Forum, the Hacker 101 Discord group. These are examples of places where people are having conversations around a space where you want to identify and encourage talent. Having your people there, providing a good recognition for the brand goes a long way. Number 3, your culture, organizational culture. So showing hackers you kind of embrace and accept them, showing them respect, and respect specifically for the hackers in the case, obviously come down to how you have your compensation model structured, organizations that want to reward top talent. We mentioned if the power essentially is mostly on the talent side in this kind of environment right now, when you're looking at 500,000 unfilled jobs, they have a lot of demand for their skills. So they're going to be having opportunities to say, I want to be able to be rewarded for my work at the highest opportunity possible level. So the encouragement would be, if you haven't, Google, Netflix. Netflix has a culture deck that they've had out there for a long time, gotten a lot of airwaves, and for good reason. It's an incredible resource. And if you haven't heard of it, I encourage you to check it out. I think it's well worth your time and reading. Have a vulnerability disclosure policy. I'm going to have a few slides here that I can just highlight of what that is and why I think that's important. When you're looking to bring top talent external to your organization, if you can't tell them, if you were today not an employee of our company or organization, that you found a security vulnerability and wanted to submit it, and they don't have a way to do it, or you don't have a safe harbor, meaning you're not going to throw the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act at them. They're not going to feel fearful that they might have the FBI knocking on their door because they're trying to do the right thing as a digital citizen and tell you something's broken. I was able to find this disclosure of PII, or whatever the case may be. If there is no vulnerability disclosure policy, then they really don't have a way to interact with you that way. And if I was a hacker looking for opportunities, that would be one of the first things I would look at, because I think it does show some of that. It's an evidence point of a culture of an organization that I would give a thumbs up on, that they're thinking through the things that matter to me. They're understanding that this is a fearful position if I found something even by accident and I have no way to disclose it to you. So again, I'll have a couple slides in just a sec talking a little bit more about that. It's something near and dear to our hearts at HackerOne, and something that that I celebrate and am excited to talk about again and again. So second to last bullet here, and we'll go on to our other slides on VDPs. If you have a VDP and you want to go to that next step, a bug bounty program does show that external maturity. It shows that you have an intake mechanism, you have a process, you're fixing these issues, and you're incentivizing researchers for their time and effort. Now, it is a more mature companies that are at that point. It is not a panacea. There's no such thing at any one toolkit in the secure SDLC is going to just make things perfect. In fact, if you're not ready, don't do it. You can talk to the professionals at HackerOne, email me with any questions, or talk to your colleagues. I'm sure there's many resources as the evolution of the hacker-powered security platforms and model is growing in adoption. But being responsive in that, if you have a really bad program, hackers are going to look at that specifically. Again, from my perspective, from HackerOne's purview, we're looking at mostly AppSec PCERT related talent. So as we expand our purview and adopt even more opportunities for hackers to earn money on the platform, such as pen testing, which is a recent big offering that HackerOne has, we'll be able to now actually have a lot more data to hopefully come back in years to come to present to you in future times. And the last thing, so use your vendor network, tap into groups that you partner with, and want to do more educational focused events. And I can't stress that enough. That is so powerful. I mentioned earlier, how are people learning today? If they're learning through work that you're collaborating with a group like HackerOne, or there's some amazing educational platforms that are popping up, and people just freelance or individuals that are doing wonderful things. Putting your logo, coming alongside and saying, we want to give you this puzzle. Hackers love puzzles. They love that challenge. And doing any kind of CTF work, it shows some sort of skills verification level. And it's also very social. Hackers love to come and do things together, and they want to hack as a group, whether it's in the CTF environment or in different initiatives. So go ahead and next slide. Okay, So I mentioned the VDP side. I'm going to go over these really quickly. This is just high level of vulnerability disclosure policy, what it kind of gives you, what it signals to a hacker that's on the outside looking to work with your organization, and what would be if you didn't have the component. So again, going through this really quick, I want to just kind of present the opportunities that when you do have the policy, it's right up front saying, assuming good intent. When you look at HackerOne's policies, we have disclosure guidelines, we have different terms of conditions for our platform. Right up front, we say, this is what we expect from security teams, and this is what we expect from the hacker community engaging on our platform. And a lot of it starts with that assumption of good intent, giving them the opportunity to do the right thing. That's the primary message here, is that exact aspect of giving them the chance to report it to you, and that you say, we have some resources to talk about 5 key things. NIST has published some incredible, their framework. A lot of the work we've published has been inspired by and as a result of work that NIST groups have done, and other organizations like NTIA and the Department of Justice as well. So you can go in the quick next slide. I think the next slide should have some actual quotes and different examples from folks like Rod Rosenstein, former Deputy Attorney General for the US Department of Justice, talking about that all companies should have it. And in fact, the CISA recently rolled out with 2021, a directive. Every organization under their purview is going to need a way to tell the external community, if you see something, say something in the digital domain, this is how you do it through VDP. Go ahead, next slide. We can skip over this one. This is a resource for you. When we talk about some of the values of partnering, rather than just throwing up a security ad inbox, what I like to say is that the process is the power, not just the policy. Policy is the first step and you do it right, but the intake process for you to actually receive the bugs, fix them, and reply back and communicate, that's powerful. And when you work with the service provider that can help come alongside you, they're going to be able to be a guide by your side and say, these 1,900 other programs we've run similarly, I can give you and enrich that experience for you and give you better benchmarking. I can give you better advice. And we have a team that's done this again and again, and it's a secure intake solution that can take you to the next level. Next slide. Okay. We also have on HackerOne, and this is something I mentioned, all these different career arcs for these hackers when you're looking to engage this talent. Opportunity for job board. This is something we've recently rolled out. I'm excited to just share a teaser for anybody that's interested. These are some of the organizations that have listed opportunities through HackerOne's ecosystem, and hackers are interested. They want to be able to further their career. They want to take some of those next steps. So we can do more to equip them on that journey and allow the opportunities for them to see what's possible today. Next slide. All right, so next section, we'll come to our final closeout with some of the predictions. We're here to talk about talent development and how to make your current talent even better. Next slide. So this is the intro quote that came from a guy named Arkady Tettleman. I'll include him on the next slide. He did a talk at B-Side San Francisco a couple years ago. And so this question, maybe show of hands, depending on the audience, he's looking at many security team leaders. A lot of times security is kind of those that are trying to convince the group, the developers, they're like, hey, this is important, you should fix this. And they're like, we don't care. So when you say some patch, you do some sort of update and you're having some challenges, go ahead and go to the next slide. That's one example Arkady talks about, and he presents a slew of advice to say, hey, how do we create a culture of security? So a lot of what you're hearing from me today and what I'm going to reference many things that Arkady talks about is in order for us to have organizations that adopt and want this talent to thrive, to give them a place where they're going to feel excited to join and they're going to be doing really meaningful work with amazing people and feel excited to show up to work each day. It takes a culture that will kind of celebrate their work, not just put them in a corner and say, don't get in the way. So go ahead and go to the next slide. This will be about 10 tips for you to take away today on how you can, how I've seen Arkady, how I've seen some of the best in class companies that work with HackerOne, be able to really do a great job of telling their story of security and getting the entire company on board with some of the work they're doing. So number one, security champions. These are security enthusiast interest groups. So my team at HackerOne, they're probably tired of me saying this, but one of my favorite books is about community. And it's from the leaders from eBay and Facebook and Instagram and Creative Mornings They talk about building community. And when we talk about this aspect of building with and developing leaders in different sections, we can only do so much where we sit. You might have an interest to be able to, get the entire group to adopt something. What's going to be the most powerful is people within your organization that you can kind of cherry pick and earmark as leaders. And the main thing for them to do with these enthusiast groups is to get people together over a certain security topic consistently. That's it. Getting people together consistently is almost a definition of community. Keep them coming back. What's our common cause? And what do we do every second Tuesday of the month or every third Thursday? And some of these other tips I'm going to go through are different kind of ideas or opportunities that you can either incorporate into an enthusiast group, but ideally you would be able to find people within the organization that could kind of disseminate this evangelism. The biggest risk we have as security practitioners is going to be people in your organization, those who click on the phishing links, those who do this. And the more we can have a security awareness training to help our current staff and talent rise the tide and be better. And then by the same token, we're actually creating a better environment for that external talent to come and thrive. So security enthusiast interest groups, very bullish on that. I've seen Arkadi's got great examples of how that's worked at companies he's worked with, including Airbnb, Twitter, and a number of other groups. All right, bug bounty fireside chats. If your company has a bug bounty program, this is optional, an opportunity. If not, then there's ways that you can be able to take bugs that are on, say, HackerOne.com/activity, which showcases disclosed issues for the broader community once they've been remediated and resolved for the general education and benefit of all. So what Arkadi's done is he takes a detailed write-up and he talks through it. He might even have been a part and helped collaborate with groups like Shopify that bring in the hackers that found the bugs and do a fireside chat with their security team lead for the entire company, 3,000 plus people on an AMA. It was something to see. It was really neat. So that's one way you can take and provide a face behind a bug. That's a lot of times I feel like certain reports or vulnerability issues don't have a human context. And when you can provide that, I think it's really rich, and it's a wonderful storytelling mechanism to kind of turn the tide of people's thought process and putting the kind face of a kind of good hacker doing good behind that bug bounty report or in this activity report and whatnot. So security newsletter, some of the ideas from the first two bullets similarly could be digested through a content distribution channel of a newsletter, a consistent cadence to be able to bring to front what are the great work we're doing, including some puzzles, making it fun. That's one way that security leaders, or you can partner with marketing, PR, depending on the different groups you might be coming from, to help kind of capture that story, to present some of the great work and champion the hackers that you want to hire into the great development work that we're doing, rather than just reading about this thing that was in the FTC or this breach, usually seen in a negative light. I think these are some of the ways that you can start turning the tide to uplift their spirits and to kind of celebrate and champion the work that the hackers you would hire are doing and your current team members. One of the coolest ways to help, again, going back to an educational motif, is by rolling up with an OWASP juice shop, structuring some sort of learning environment. This would typically be with developers, so those that might have a technical inclination already, or Hacker101 has Capture the Flag labs available 24/7. You can even structure different groups and you can compare with each other who's finding the flags, who found it the fastest, and have a lot of fun to get some peace on a Friday afternoon and help get people together. Now, this is obviously in a COVID world, so you do it digitally and alter as necessary. But that's things we've seen groups do to emphasize education and to help their team members learn and grow together. This bullet number 5, NSA Security postcards. So in Arkadi's talk, this is something I also saw. National Security Agency open sourced a whole bucket of advertisements they were doing 50 plus years ago or something. And they're very old school ads, obviously, given how long ago they were. But they just present a really unique, interesting picture. They're very artistic little postcards, but they talk about security issues. And so Arkadi's example was he printed a lot of them out, shipped them to different departments, or left them on coffee tables in offices, or sent a digital one in an environment where we're not able to be together in person. I thought it was a neat element to not just be so serious all the time. Let's not take ourselves so seriously. Let's also kind of embrace some of the neat things that NSA put these great resources out there. So you'll quick Google, I'm sure you'd find it. Otherwise, I can share a link if you're interested after. OWASP top 10 flashcards. OS top 10 is great. I come from a content marketing background, and when you're looking at listicles and top 10s, people remember them. So the OS one's great. This kind of OS top 10 card is not going to show it very well with my virtual background, but we have digital versions available. It kind of boils down these OS top 10 vulnerabilities into bite-sized, digestible, understandable elements that's not just geared towards a security audience. So OS top 10, 2017 flashcards now. I know they did 2013, 2017. I've heard rumors. I think the next one's coming up. Maybe someone on this call know more about it than I do. But we're looking forward to be able to refresh those flashcards for broader digestion and utility, and taking something that's very well known in any kind of security conversation, especially AppSec externally, about what the OWASP top 10 is. Okay, moving right along. Number 7, security conference watch party. So at you can do this virtually. We can do this historically now. Everybody's not getting together in person. You're here at the NIST conference, which is awesome. Maybe you're doing this already. If so, I applaud you. That's awesome. But sharing information that might be the right topic, and you can kind of cherry pick, just getting people together, maybe in these enthusiast groups, just have a dialogue, have a place to be able to talk through what this kind of means and kind of boil down some of the components that might be shared. You can go a whole wide spectrum of very technical security talks with a certain audience internally or other groups. Again, a lot of these tips and tricks is kind of about raising the tide of the security culture and how you can figure out what's right for you, take an arrow out of the quiver, choose which one is best for you at this time, and move forward with it. Security show and tell is number 8. It's kind of similar to the bug bounty fireside chats. How are you going to walk through, but it also opens up the door that you can actually talk about more practical, maybe things that are more mundane or boring, but presenting a business impact for what you're doing, not just, if we don't do this, we're going to get a slap on the wrist and it's compliance, we're not in compliance, or whatever the case may be. A lot of this is storytelling. It's presenting things. It's some of that internal marketing that can help you disseminate the broad understanding with your employees about the great work that you and your team are doing, or teams. Hacking competitions, winners might get a free trip to DEF CON over time as we allow travel and things would open up. I think this would be an incredible opportunity. We've seen this so much with live hacking events, which is number 10. When we get people together, magical things happen. When you're there in person and you have that capability to interact. We've also taken live hacking events into virtual space and providing virtual environments for hackers to thrive and experiences that they can enjoy. But it'll always be a both and. You can never replace breaking bread and spending that time together. So one way that you can just maybe get some budget approved. It's always tough to get travel approved even without pandemics, I'm sure, for your organizations. And if you're to do that, sacrifice some of your budget to get maybe 1 or 2 employees. Says, hey, you do this kind of like mini quiz or test, you're going to come with us and you're going to get to experience some of the DEF CON culture and different things. But DEF CON is one example, and there's many, many other fantastic security conferences that would be well worth the time and would achieve the same goal. So that's a lot on a slide. I was excited to talk through it. I'm coming up on 5 minutes left of my time. So I'm going to go to the next slide, do some predictions, and I'll check if we got any questions. So the evolution. Next slide. So this is kind of the way in which you present the past. When you look at the past, we got siloed organizations, fear of legal action. This is some of the aspects we see with VDPs. We have hacker influencers now. Like I talked to Katie, who's inside our PhD. I included her tweet. We see other hackers that are discussing vulnerabilities, their hacking styles. It's becoming more of a thing. So there's free online courses we have like HackerOne. Actually, sorry, that's you can go to the next slide for the present. So we're looking at today. What we're seeing is an investment in community or investment in education. We're seeing the influence that comes from the groups that are in the HackerOne community and abroad. Yeah, I think that's a very positive thing that you're seeing Hollywood kind of raise up hacking as a conversation, maybe not always in the most positive light, but it actually is an opportunity for a dialogue. We're seeing groups like NIST, incredible work to reproduce, to update. I saw the framework just today. I saw that update from via email. And right now, I know that's still the present. We still see when we survey people, 63% of hackers on our platform aren't able to disclose a valid security issue because they were afraid that they were going to have an organization come down on them legally. So that's the present. Where we want to get in the future, you can go to the next slide. What could this future look like? Well, I think we'll see even more buy-in to the understanding that ignoring hackers will be viewed as negligence. CISA being a major step with going after the Hack the Pentagon, Department of Defense leadership. We're seeing more and more governments and agencies around the world starting to buy in on this. We had tracked the Forbes 2000, 93% a year and a half ago, did not have a vulnerability disclosure policy. When we did that research again, it's actually improved. So I see a lot of positive tailwinds. We talked about career arcs for hackers, about half a dozen of them. I think we're gonna have 500 CISOs coming out of this community of hackers at HackerOne in the next 15, 20 years. And we already passed 100 million in bounties and earnings. We wanted to help hackers have a place where they can earn a lot of money, have a lot of opportunity, and partner with amazing organizations like yours on the line to be able to help improve the security of our digitally connected society. That's that mission we have at HackerOne. Go to the last slide, last two slides. I think I got a resources slide here from Hacker Report. A lot of these are available on our website. And Hacker 101 is something my team oversees. We're very, very passionate about, continue to build out CTFs. And last slide is my contact information. I wanted to give a shout out to say, if you're interested in hiring hackers and you want help, just even be a resource. I'm happy to have a dialogue with anybody, and happy to help, whether it's myself or others within my network. I want to make that a available resource. Look at HackerOne. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me just shotgun through the presentation and talk with you all. So we got a couple minutes. We can do any questions if there's any live. I'm not seeing any. I'm not sure if Sam or Barbara or the team, Jocelyn, sees any, but thank you all for listening. Otherwise, great. Thank you all.